Okay. 127 in the stream, so... Alright guys, this is going to be the Angela Hero Spotlight. We've got, Angela here, my Cosmic. One of my most favorite characters in the game. So she has, the Assassin's Armory tree, the Heavenly Ribbons tree, and her talented traits, which her offensive trait is that she's a champion, so she scales with durability and speed. She also gets 3% crit hit chance innately. She has a secondary mechanic, I guess, called Living Ribbons, which is just a passive that attacks nearby enemies every 3 seconds, which you can see right there. Actually has a pretty far reach. And her defensive trait is that she has health on hit, 279. She is versatile, which means she gets defense and dodge scaling, and she's a melee combatant, which means she has an innate 8% damage reduction. Let's go through the Assassin's Armory tree first. So she's got Rending Blades, which is a basic. She used to have a talent that gave her the Spirit on hit, but they changed it so that she just gets the Spirit on hit innately. So that's her basic. We've got, just a regular blade hit, I guess. I'm not sure if that actually changes. Okay, look, it does changes. Oh, it does changes, hello? It does change based on what costume you use, so if I'm in her, default, she uses that glaive thing. But in her 1602, she uses that glaive. We've got Rage of Xiphos, which is a 5-hit power. Doesn't do much right now, but we'll get into changing that later. Let me, You've got her flight. Her flight's pretty cool. She's got that little wind-up, which looks really good. Whirling Wrath, which is a spender. I can't change stuff in combat. Whirling Wrath, which is a spender. It's an area spender, and it has a pretty nice animation. Pretty decent area effect. See there? It gets 40% damage versus bleeding targets, so keep that in mind. Know My Name and Weep. It's got 40% more damage versus vulnerable targets. It's basically just a stab. Are they changing any of the relics? I don't think they are. Icar's Wrath is a 8-second cooldown power, which you can change into an execute. So it's basically that. Hunter's Blades is the spender of my choice, so it looks amazing. Her ribbons are very well done. Heaven's Fury is, if you know from other characters, it is one of those powers that make you go invuln for a short amount of time and hit in a area. So it's like that. Deadpool has pretty much the same thing. It's called Cutting Room Floor. Magic has 7 League Step, and Spider-Man has Arachnid Assault. Then we have her signature, which is Nothing for Nothing. This is a power that can be activated 3 times within 8 seconds. The first 2 hits cause a spin, and it makes enemies more vulnerable, which means they take 15% more damage. That stacks twice, so 30% if you use it within, 10 seconds. Which you're gonna have to. And the final hit is a bigger hit. So it is basically 1, 2, and 3. We got the Heavenly Ribbons, so this is basically a sword type tree. And this is a ribbon type tree, so this is based on your ribbons, which is another tag, which we'll get into that in a bit here. Ribbon powers have a mechanic that they can utilize. So Writhing Ribbons is just an AoE. From wherever you're standing, it's just an AoE around you. Heavenly Charge being your movement. She dashes and just ribbons fly out from everywhere you can think of. Binding Ribbons is a weaken. Hypnotic Ribbons is a confuse, which looks pretty good, to be honest. I personally don't use her ribbon power as much because I really like her melee tree. Angelic Smite is a crashdown type power, but it also gives it's a bleed, and it gives your ribbons 10% more damage for 4 seconds, so you can use it like that. It's a crashdown and then she spins, and you get more damage out of it, so it's pretty good. Piercing Ribbons is another spender that you can use. Looks amazing. It is a 13 times a second. No, I think it's 4 times a second. Doesn't really say, but I'm pretty sure it's 4 hits a second. Based on how it is on live. And then we've got Stunning Icarus, which is the equivalent to Icarus Wrath. It's the pretty much ranged execute power that she has. So it hits and then comes back and hits again. Now, for her talents, she has, let's go row by row. Predator's Claim, which makes Writhing Ribbons will now slow enemies caught in its area, so Writhing Ribbons being this power again. So you throw this on, and now you can see the tooltip doesn't have to flow, and now it does. So, it's just a slow. Gives enemies a minus 50% attack move speed. Whirling Wrath being one of her spenders. This applies a vulnerability for 8 seconds. I can't really test that without going into combat, and that would cause me pain, pretty much. Rage of Zyphos now causes enemies to bleed, so this is the talent of my choice. Rage of Zyphos being that 5-hit power, which you can see now there is a bleed attached to it. Also on the tooltip. Physical damage twice per second. The second row is... There's one for Living Ribbons, which again is your other mechanic. Your basically passive damage. It allows them to get 25% more damage and 5% more crit and brute strike. Ribbon powers now cause enemies to bleed, so this is the mechanic I was talking about before. So if you play a ribbon build, which is pretty much viable as well, any ribbon power you use will make, and that does damage, will cause a bleed to any enemy. I don't believe it stacks with each other, so if you use like Writhing Ribbons and Heavenly Charge, I don't believe, or not Heavenly, I guess Heavenly Charge as well, I'm pretty sure it will only cause that bleed once. And it's a 5-second duration bleed, it's not bad. And then Angelic Smite, which is your crashdown, can be activated twice. And it also gives Angelic Smite 25% more damage. Which, I actually really like this talent, because I don't really like the other two. It's definitely interesting, but I could see myself taking the ribbon bleed one as well, because I do use Writhing Ribbons in my build. So I can use Crashdown twice, and you can chain your Crashdowns. So basically what that means is your Crashdown is an 8-second cooldown, but you can use it twice now. So the ribbon power damage only has a 4-second buff duration, so you can now use it every 4 seconds to get that 100% uptime on ribbon power buff, which is pretty cool. And keep in mind that your SIG is tagged ribbon. Signature melee area movement ribbon. I'll get into her ult in a second. Her third row of talents is pretty interesting. Two of them reduce the cooldowns of her 2 trees by 25%, so this is something that wasn't on live. So you can see Icar's Wrath. We'll go for the left tree first. This one, cooldowns of non-signature Assassin's Armory powers are reduced by 25%, so anything except nothing for nothing. So you can see Icar's Wrath has a cooldown of 8 seconds, and with the talent on, it is 6 seconds. So it is definitely a talent that I would definitely use. Personally, I'll be using the Assassin's Armory cooldown reduction just because it fits nicely within the build that I use. There's also the Heavenly Ribbons ones, which is more, like I said, ribbon-based powers. And then non-damage over time, Heavenly Ribbons powers grant the next Assassin's Armory power usage, 25% crit chance. I don't really know how useful that is to me, but I could see builds using it. Mainly hybrid builds that use, like, Writhing Ribbons and then Rage of Zyphos. But personally, I'll be using Mistress at Arms. The fourth row is all about your living ribbons. So if you've played Angela on live, this is basically what her specs is. So what they used to do was basically what these talents do. Causes living ribbons to double their attack rate, so they attack every 1.5 seconds instead of 3. Angela commands her ribbons to pull enemies in, and living ribbons will always crit. So you can see over here, living ribbons now pulls enemies to you. And then living ribbons protect you from enemy attacks, reflecting 3% of incoming projectiles and gives you 10% damage reduction. This is a more tankier option. Personally, I don't go for the tanky stuff, I go for damage. And as I'm going through the talents, you're going to see me go with the build that I would do. So I would do these 4 talents. And then we have Stunning Icarus gains an execute, shared with Icar's Wrath, so Stunning Icarus being the ranged execute. Icar's Wrath, there you go, 6 seconds, shared with Stunning Icarus, and it is your melee execute. And then if Icar's Wrath or Stunning Icarus defeats their target, the cooldowns of all other non-signature and non-ultimate powers are reset. This is good if you're farming. Not really good against single target because you don't gain a lot of damage from it because you're not defeating the target. So I like the melee execute more, so this is basically the build I would do. And then we have her ult. Basically the same thing, what it is in live. You've got the crit buff, brute buff, invuln, and the damage twice per second. It looks really good. It is, I think, one of the most visually appealing ults of the game. And, like I said, we have her flight, which has a really nice wind up, and then looks good, I guess. Now, for gearing options, you have anything with speed or durability. So there are a couple artifacts that I will be using that don't have speed or durability, so like I can't use that, and I won't be using that because I don't use a basic. The Book of Demonicus is now not as appealing as it is on live before the changes. I will still be using the main because it is a straight up damage, and when you use a bleed power, you get a lot of crit rating, which is good because we are now low on crit rating. Like I have 30% crit chance. Without that, and then there's the brooch, which damage rating to melee powers I would definitely be using. Extra damage rating and crit rating when you hit with a melee power. A lot of the gearing now is going to be based on hero uniques now because they are just built with the character's traits in mind. So I do have her slot 3 and 2 here. So we've got, I'm going to take the legendary off and the ring. We've got her in slot 1, which is going to be a best in slot for her. You can either go with this or the fragment, but I think this is going to be best in slot because you're getting that 1042 damage rating, plus 3 durability and 1 speed. The extra physical damage, base damage with losses, and the crit damage is really great. We have her slot 2. Personally, I don't like her slot 2. It's only got 2 durability, 1 speed on it, so we're gonna mostly be looking at attribute points now because that's what gives you most of your damage. How many heroes am I covering today? I'm not sure. I'm gonna try to go like 2 or 3. Because I do want to get back on live and level Wolverine some more. But yeah, her slot 2 I don't really like. And I think I would rather use where is it? Do I have one? A Portal's Darkhawk armor because it does give 2 speed, the ton of brute damage and brute rating, and the power duration is great. It's also got a ton of health on it, so I'm probably going to be going with Darkhawk armor on her. Her slot 3 is not bad either. I actually think it's gonna beat the coat now because it does give 3 speed, 2 durability, so that's 5 attribute points, which is 20% damage, and 20% damage is equal to 800 damage rating, which you don't get that from the coat anymore because the coat is when you crit you get 400 damage rating and 2 strength, energy, and intelligence, which those attributes do not help her at all. You're getting pretty much the same amount of brute damage, brute rating, well, a bunch less brute rating. You do gain attack speed, but you lose the power duration. It's mostly going to it's mostly going to come down to power duration on gearing options for her. Then her other 2 uniques are best in slot, no doubt. So we got her slot 4, which is 965 physical damage, 1 durability, 1 speed, plus 1171 crit damage and brute damage. It's insane. The spirit cost is great too because I hear that she does have a bit of spirit problems if you don't take the right nodes in the Infinity system. Then we got her slot 5, which gives 1042 damage rating, 1261 crit damage, 321 damage versus bleed, and then 4 durability, 3 speed, which is 7 attribute points. It's insane. Not to mention the crit and brute rating. So her slot 4 and 1, 4, 5 are definitely best in slot for her. Now ring, I think I'm gonna be going with a sling ring because it's just so good. With that, what is it? 550 damage rating plus the 250 crit. The attack speed doesn't really matter much, but you also get that invuln every time you use your Sig for 2 seconds. Which her Sig is on a 30-second cooldown. It's not bad. I do have 2 different insignias for her. So I have a Gamora one and a Mockingbird, which Mockingbird might not be as good anymore because of the attack speed node in the Infinity system. You can get 25% attack speed. Mockingbird is only 9.1% attack speed, and Gamora is now 277 melee damage and 431 brute damage. So I might be going with the Gamora instead of the Mockingbird now. Like I said, if you, in my other video, I guess, if you take that node in the Infinity system, the attack speed one, you can get 25% attack speed, and you can re-gear and not have to take attack speed as much on your gear. Now, core, you're going to want... So, the core can have 5 affixes. I'm thinking the best in slots would be 25% medkit, your 2 attributes, so like, hers is speed, durability. Those can go up to 3 each. The damage shield on the cosmic affix. And then, I don't know, you can go for the life on hit. You've got your pet, which you're gonna go with the unique affix is mainly what I'm gonna be talking about there. You're gonna go with either speed or durability. You're gonna want the 10% brute damage and the 50 spirit on it as well. Now for artifacts and medals, I am actually pretty torn on what medals to use now, because I might have to go back to a bravery, which is not bad because it's +1 to all attributes, crit damage, brute rating, brute damage, or not crit damage, it's brute rating, brute damage, +1 to all attributes, which is 8% damage for her because she does scale with 2 attributes, as with anybody, and the 358 damage rating on that one, which I think it goes up to like 450, I think. So I'm thinking that Scroll Medallion is going to be best in slot again. But of course you can go for like anything with durability and speed. Which I think Red Skull is pretty good too, because it gives 2 durability and 1293 brute damage. Legendary, Axe, of course. Axe is going to be best in slot, no doubt. Or you can go with the shield just for the tankiness, which I have both for her. Artifacts, I am going to definitely be using a Advanced Circlet of Sidorak because it is 750 physical damage and 3 durability, which is a lot. Also the 500 brute strike rating. And probably the Nano Poison because 2 durability plus the, like I said, ton of brute damage and brute rating. So I'm probably going to be using those 2 plus the main and brute. And that's basically what I'm going to be doing for Angela. Again, it's not going to be obvious what to use at first, but it's not going to be hard to re-gear. For blessings, you want Hoguns because melee damage is king for her. Unless you're using the ranged option, then you would go Hogun or Loki. Or not Hogun, Hela or Loki. Hela is best all-around option because it's 400 brute and 400 brute damage. Atlantis, of course, and the Power Dupe. Power Dupe is best in slot for any physical hero. And that's basically Angela in a nutshell. there's not really much I can talk about for Angela. There's yeah, I gave the build. I went over her powers and talents, and oh, Infinity System. Infinity System. Not taking into account the haste, I would go for the attack speed, the movement powers, and the speed, of course, because she does scale with speed. Area damage, and durability. We've got brute damage, brute strike. You got the base health if you want, and then the true ally is of course very good to take, and then you go for fighting. I would max all 4 of these and then go for the fighting. This is what I would do for her. I don't really care about these 2. So crit chance, crit damage, and energy. Base damage to signature is amazing. 10% damage reduction, and the strength. Ultimate power cooldown, if you want, I would take that as a last option. I don't take this at all on her because she doesn't take summon ally damage because she doesn't summon. And then spirit cost, 500 spirit, and intelligence. That's basically her. For synergies, you got strength. Well, no, you don't take strength anymore. You take speed, the area, and speed. Her own trait is best. Cable is still good. Elektra is still going to be really good. Moon Knight, Nightcrawler, She-Hulk is physical damage. Yeah, that's still pretty good. Squirrel Girl, fighting you wouldn't take anymore. The War Machine one, you would instead switch that for durability, which is Emma Frost's. Which also gives you 3% damage over time, so it's definitely very useful. And then Wolverine and X-23 would be top. But yeah, guys, that's basically Angela. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next Hero Spotlight.